Hello and welcome to the webinar hosted by Mergerware and Schneider Electric, Strategise Value Creation through IT Due Diligence and Integration. Our panelist for today is Mr. Mohi Behesti, leader of IT M&A Integration and a global leader for Schneider Electric with unmatched expertise in pre- and post-merger and acquisition and divestiture activities, covering strategy, technology, operations, vendor management, cost optimization, integration planning, and transaction service agreements. I, Prakya Bhatt, Customer Success Manager at Mergerware, will be the moderator of today's session. The session will be for about 40 to 45 minutes and the remaining for the question and answer session. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them out in the control panel of the GoToWebinar. Without further delay, I will hand over the presentation to Mr. Mori. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Prakaya, and thank you, Mergerware, for inviting me to join this webinar and talk about this very important topic in our space. Value creation is a key cornerstone of what we do and what we do for M&A, and IT as the biggest value creator and business enabler. I think most of the times it's misunderstood by many folks outside of IT realm, and I think it's very important for us to be able to articulate what IT does, what does it mean in terms of M&A, and it's just more than turning the lights on and more than just a few PCs. So when people think about IT, they don't think about just their laptop. So it is very important for the leaders, IT leaders in this space, to be able to articulate what is the value creation, what is the enablers, and what does IT do when it comes to, specifically for this topic, when it comes to M&A. I've been in M&A space for a long period of time, I think in the neighborhood of 18 years with various companies and in various industries, in financial industry, on Wall Street, as well as in manufacturing, such as Cisco and now Schneider, and then when some much smaller companies. So I've seen this from many different angles, and I think that gives me a very unique view as to what does the space look like, the evolution of the space, and where is it going. So with that, I just want to, with that introduction, and also I want to, let you know that, overseen more than and participated more than, I think, 200 diligences, if not more, and a significant number of deals of many different size over the years. So it's the conversation that we're going to have is not mostly based on the theory. It's also it's based on the experience and what works in the executions, and a lot of postmortem. So I think from that point of view is also is very important. So I want to just take you to, if I could. So I'm going to move here to our today's objective. So one, we want to go over how companies mobilizing differently to achieve M&A IT integration. Then we want to talk about the importance of M&A framework, and then how to leverage IT due diligence to ensure project value creation and synergy targets are achieved, and also IT integration and post-merger and the challenges associated with that. Seems like I have a little, there you go. I'll start by going through the acquisition life cycle for most of you who've been in space, or if you've never been in space, I think you could see is basically there are four uh, distinct cycle that when we look at a deal we'll be looking at. Basically we have a due diligence, and then before the diligence obviously there are different aspects when you send your memorandum of understanding, and then when you get into the folks to the bidders getting involved. So I'm left deliberately closing outside of this conversation. Just going to concentrate on these four phases: the due diligence phase, and then deal structuring phase, which takes us usually to the close, which is legal day one. These legal day close terminology is used interchangeably, and post-merger integration execution, which is our PMI, and then value confirmation or realization. So as you can see, what this slide depicts is basically is superimposing the IT uh, activities over the side of the each phase of the deal. So on the due diligence phase, if you look at it, basically there are a few things that we're very key, and it's very important for us to figure out. There is uh, most of you may know that IT, when it comes to due diligence, sometimes IT becomes afterthought, and IT is not involved ahead of time and during the right timing for diligence, and therefore we always IT plays catch up. So what we are here saying that, and what we are really emphasizing, and what we are here doing at Schneider is we're making sure that we are very much involved from the moment that due diligence is started, in terms of being part of a deal team and making sure that same as people who look at the taxes, same as people who look at the treasury and then business and other on the product side, we look at the IT landscape and we make sure that uh, the we evaluate the company that there's a target company's full IT stack. What are we looking for usually when we go into the IT due diligence? What we usually look at, it's as most of you know. I mean, in my 20 years I've been doing this, I've never seen an IT, because of an IT, we stop a deal or a business stops the deal. So it's not so much that IT is going to prevent, is a showstopper that's going to prevent a deal from happening, although there are some exceptions to that. But the most important things that IT does during the due diligence is, and if you have only you could do one thing, and for me is that would be to identify risks and quantify. Once you identify risk and provide mitigation strategy for it. And the risks always they come different shape or form. I could in the next slide I could tell you what the actual risks, what the risks are. The three main risks that usually look at: reputational risk, and I'll give you an example of that, and then the operational risk, and then financial risk. These three risks are very much aligned with IT, and the biggest value that we provide to the business during the diligence is identifying, quantifying, and providing a plan to mitigate risks. So from that point of view, it's and in Schneider we've really been able to put put in place a framework and the due diligence processes and templates and questions to be able to really get to the risk and be able to not only just identify it, quantify it to the best of our ability, as well as uh, find mitigations for it, and and put some planning around mitigation. The so on the I move to the next couple of cycles, and then I go back to due diligence because I have more to say about the due diligence. Then we go to the deal structuring cycle. Is basically when we sit down after the diligence, we try to figure out, and then we try to figure out, okay, what are we gonna do with this company that they acquired? Gonna how is it gonna integrate it? Is it a core company that we bought? Is it the core at the core of our company in terms of operations, products, etc., or is it just what I call a bolt-on, where it's just bought it for this brand and we want to the brand so that and also, this is the time that we sit down and look at their estimates of what does it take to mitigate risks, what does it take to integrate, and then we come up with basically with analysis of what what the integration looks like. And once we get into the post merger, and assuming that the deal is closed, so which we are depicting these with the, as you see, number 1, 2, 3. Then these numbers will correspond to other activities in our framework. That's why you see these numbers there. That's the only reason that are there. And then we get into the post-merger integration execution, where we start really integrating. And that is where you really need a framework, a repeatable process that you could anticipate and repeat every single time. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's repeatable, as long as it's defined, and as long as everybody knows about it. That's the key to this, to the PMI piece. And the other piece is you got to define what is mandatory and what is not mandatory here. And I'll get to that a little later. And then the last but not least is the value creation piece. That's where, okay, assuming we've done all the integration, we've done all the risks mitigations, then how do we measure the success? What does the success look like? Is how do we create the value here that we could measure from IT point of view? Because IT usually is looked upon as a cost, but here what the proposition that we're saying, that we are a business enabler, we are shifting the paradigm of IT as a cost to a business enabler. So by that, then the question becomes, how do you prove that? How do you measure that? And I could give you a simple example of this. When business sits down, and this is very much tied in to the business strategy, we don't go and integrate just for the sake of integration. We integrate to enable business to uh, hit their goals and hit their M&A goals. So let's say one of the assumptions, and then business creates a business case for these deals, is always based on a lot of different assumptions. Let's say one of the assumptions is that we want to create a cross-selling target for the next 2 years of 30% between the joint companies, the target company as well as our company. So they have access to our opportunities, we have access to their opportunities, and then we could execute this. And then we share the opportunities, so, and then we cross-sell and we upsell. So let's say that is an assumption, which is a very likely assumption, is in almost 95% of the deals. So in order to do that, then the IT as an enabler, the way IT will come in, it will be, it would become, we look at their CRM systems. Let's say theirs is Salesforce.com. And then we look at our CRM system, and it's a Salesforce.com. Uh, and or Microsoft Dynamic, doesn't really matter. So what the first thing we want to do is we gotta figure out that we need to get to a place that we could integrate these two CRMs, or at least connect the two CRMs to be able to see each other, have the view of each other opportunities, and the opportunities could be then we could share the leads, and from the lead generation all the way to the code to cash, and that requires an integration. And then that integration then triggers a lot of other IT activities. For instance, if you want to do a full integration, then you gotta make sure that network is connected, and then the network has a bandwidth. Then you gotta make sure the software licenses allows you to do it. And then for that, then the issue becomes how do folks connect to that CRM. Is it going to be a single sign-on or not? If you use a single sign-on, then you need to do a whole host of things around Active Directory. So in essence, what the way we look at this right now is not like series of IT activities. This is purely, we look at as IT as a service where you provide a service to business to cross-sell. And then whatever then, let's say the business has the target, and the target is 30% of cross-sell, and whatever then our cost to enable them is not going to be just an IT cost. It's going to be a cost to sell, like any other cost, like employee costs or any other parts of the cost. So this is really the way to shift the conversation from uh, an IT cost to a part of really sales cost, and like anything else. So that's the type of example that I would use when it comes to uh, uh, sales IT enablement. So let me just go to, and then if you look at the bottom of the page, what you're going to see is, again, uh, for each of these phases, we have the due diligence template, the risk reports. You got, then we have the program charter. We got the program financials, IT program management, license, value delivery, and the performance. So and I get into the framework in a second. So I just wanted you to get out of this one page is the deal structure, the what the how the IT really works in each of these phases, and what is the deliverables, and what are the activities that we do, and what do we need to do it. So it is very important for you practitioners to be able to articulate that in a very simple terms, with not only with the simple terms, also with the same language as the M&A folks, for them to understand that when you talk about the diligence, when you talk about IT strategy, when you talk about IT PMI and value creation, what does it mean? How does that mean? How does that affect the deal cycle? And so that, because they're focused on the deal cycle, they're focused on signing and closing the deal and moving on to the next deal. We are stuck with actually executing it. So it is very, very key to be able to use the same terminology as them. It's very, very key to be able to really partner with them and ensure that you're involved at the right time, and you have a seat on the table, and never ever play catch up. Also is very important as a key takeaway from this is to make sure that you figure out the right IT budget, whether is for remediation of the issues or for integration. That is a separate budget from the run. So you're not using it from your existing run cost to be able to finance the integration. So this is absolutely key. And I just wanted to leave you up on this page with these thoughts. When you look at this, don't look just the IT for IT. Just look from the paradigm of IT M&A as an M&A enabler, as a business enabler. This is space that we are in, the IT M&A. It is a very special space, and I think this is something that more corporate leaders are really recognizing that this is a special skill set to be able to uh, really understand the deal structure. So that means you really need to have some financial acumen. Then to be able to really understand the IT landscape on the macro level, and then to be able to look at business strategy and translate it into actionable item that on the IT side that they could enable the business. And then to add to that, you'll be able to manage contracts, manage vendors, and understand the ramifications of software licenses and everything else. So it is really, really key for us to practitioners in space make sure that we communicate and show that we're not just IT guys. We are a well-rounded M&A guys with IT specialty, and the way we think, the way we move, the way we talk, it is really part of our pedigree of who we are, and that point of view is very, very key for us to make sure that we communicate that. Let me go to the next slide, which we said about due diligence and how do we create the value during the due diligence. So I talked about risk. I talked about how do we identify risks. So the biggest thing, as I said during the due diligence, is identification of risk. What is the reputation of risks? And from IT point of view, what does it translate in IT? The biggest risk that you can have reputationally comes from information security. So if you are acquiring a company that which does not have a right information security apparatus, it doesn't have the right organization, it doesn't have the right tools in place and right topology, what you're gonna find is that regardless of the size of that company could provide significant amount of risk to your company that you're purchasing. Let's assume that we're Schneider Electric, we're a conglomerate. We go want to purchase a small company, and that small company is a software company. We're in the business of software automation, so let's say we purchase that. And let's say that company that we purchase, it's now after we close the deal, it's basically Schneider. And let's say they don't have the right firewalls, they don't have the right processes, they don't have the right patching system, they don't have the right basically information security processes and procedures. And for that, and they get hacked, or either they get hacked or you get some malware placed and it starts because now they're part of your system and you integrated them, that becomes your issue. And even though if it doesn't come to your system, let's say they're standalone still, but then somebody hacks them, so that the news will not be a small company was hacked, and news will be Schneider was hacked, and then Schneider is a company of $30 million. If you see that, then that creates a significant reputational damage that you cannot really repair with your customers, with the various stakeholders. So from that point of view, what is really key during the due diligence as an IT folks for us is information security. Information security is in the past, people didn't pay a lot of attention to it, but more and more. And if you look at what future looks like, information security is absolutely key to be able to evaluate and mitigate later on. So if you don't do anything else, if one thing only they allow you to do one thing, you got to be able to do a information security diligence, and there are many ways of doing that. I don't think we have time to get into that, but that's from the reputational point of view. Financial also, again, if you have again, use that same example as if you were hacked and your, let's say, your systems are outdated systems, your computer and servers are outdated, and you have a malware in it that it goes down and it stops the production. Obviously, you have a full financial exposure that's going to cost you a lot of money. And then operational is disruption that you're going to get. And if you're connected, if you're already connected to the acquired company, and that also affects your existing operation. So in effect, you've created a big operational nightmare for your own company as well as the acquired company. So these three risks are basically what we're looking at when it comes to the due diligence. Then I want to shift the synergy side. So what is our role again when it comes to synergy? So if you look at the M&A, basically we're talking about two types of synergy and one basically measurement. We look at always deals have a cost target, synergy target. When we put one and one together, we want to see the result should not be two. The result should be 3 and 4, 5. And that's how these deals work. And the question becomes, is there any cost synergy? Is there any duplication of efforts? Is there any rationalizations of a IT application and landscape? Is there anything that we could get through the costs? I mean, it's not just through the people. A lot of time, cost means easily one of the biggest example of cost is vendor consolidation. If the acquired company you get a much better price because you're much bigger, then you definitely got to consolidate and come to their price. That'll save you a lot of money if you have a lot of volume. That's true for network. That's true with the providers. That's true with the software licenses. That's true with a lot of things. So that cost becomes very important. So they look at IT to make sure that IT provides cost relief. And then the other thing is on the revenue side. So revenue is also, there are some synergies that they've thought about on the revenue that as a part of the deal. I gave you an example of revenue synergy where we talked about CRM. So that's how we help to with the revenue synergies, and that's what they look to us to come up with a strategy in terms of helping the business with the synergies, revenue synergies, and making sure that whether it's a cross sell, whether it's an upsell, whether it's whatever that is, we're sales support. We're just providing that. For instance, one of the examples I could give you on a sales support is, it's if you have the customer care center that is automatically looks at the customers profiles. It identifies the external identity of the customers. If you integrate acquired company into that, then automatically when somebody calls, then you know who they are, you know what they need, you know when you need to subscribe them. If you have a subscription-based product, you know when you need to renew them. So you just add that and you create extra revenue for the acquired company, which they never had before. And then, if you have an issue to prevention where you, on a regular basis, you look at the issues that they had, and you analyze those issues, and you come with the solutions automatically, and you provide that to the customers. That also becomes something very so that becomes how we enable on a revenue side, on a time and effort to realize the value. So this is something that there is expected us to do. We need to be able to say, it's going to take me, how long is it going to take me to integrate? How am I going to integrate? How much money you need? How much of it is OpEx? How much of it is CapEx? And then most importantly, as a result of this integration, what is the total incremental costs or increase or decrease to the existing acquired company run? Let's say the company that you bought, it runs at 10 million a year for, to run the IT shop. That's everything. And let's say after you integrate them, it's going to cost them 12 million or 13 million to run. You need to show where does this, with that 3 million that we are spending extra after integration, what is it that they're getting? What is the value that you're delivering? Otherwise, it's going to be looked upon that basically you increase the cost and you reduce the productivity. And by the same token, if you could decrease their costs through your standardization, through bringing them in and reducing their overhead and giving them advantages on vendor, etc., you could show the value that they were at 10 million. Now they're going to run at 9 million or 8 million. And so it's very key to be able to articulate the incremental or the incremental cost, or in case of the cost goes down, the cost savings, to show why. And if you're doing incremental costs, and then part of it is just standardization, let's say from 10 million you go to the 13 million, you should be able to break that down exactly and say, for instance, it's going to cost you 10 million, 1 million extra because you're using a digitized model. I'm enabling you to be fully digital. That means collaboration tools, that means this tool, that tool. And so that in itself, so then now they know that's the cost. And then you say, it takes you another million that to be secure. There's a cost of security that I'm going to give you. So basically, security is the value creation of a security is cost avoidance. So we got to be able to talk in these terms about, rather than cost, rather than saying security, we say cost avoidance. How much money do you spend to make sure that your house doesn't get broken into? This is the language that we need to speak with the business folks to understand. It's not just, I'm going to go spend this much on the patching, this much on two CISOs, etc., etc. It's very important to be able to use the right language and be able to identify and really lay out where does incremental costs come from, what categories, and what is the benefit to the business. So these I would find these very, very key. That these. So if you look at between risk and synergies, these are the things that you want to think about. These are the things that you want to have a conversation with business about. And I would say that this is the most important thing as a M&A leader that you want to have front and center of any conversation that you have. So I'm just going to do a quick poll and see just to just do a little brain teaser and just wake some of you up if you're falling asleep with my presentation, I just want to do a quick quiz and then see out of the questions that you see here, which of these are the most important one. Is it all of them? Is it one or the other? Business continuity through. So which are the main priorities that must be considered in an IT M&A integration? Business continuity, integrating IT departments of merging companies, supporting the integration of the other company functions, including finance, operation, and HR, and establishing a strong IT architecture for your future growth, or all of the above. So I think you have the way of answering these questions, and our moderator will tell us later. Let me go to the due diligence framework. I talked about in great detail about the diligence. Let me just quickly mention that we're talking about risk identification. We're talking about developing a risk profile, estimating the risk, stakeholder analysis, then when financial estimations, we're talking about high-level cost estimates. And then this is where you see the number 2 comes in. Right now we are shifting to when we get to the after close, which is basically going to the mandatory day 1, before close mandatory day 1, then we shift to mandatory 100 days, year 1 and year 2. And then making sure that we're support all the signing decisions. So this is basically this is just shows you the work streams that may be involved in working in this. There are 2 different teams that we usually use, one for diligence and one for integration. The diligence is usually you need the type of people and pedigree of the people who you do your diligence. You want to be really people who can work with little information. If somebody needs a ton of information to make a decision or analyze something, that person is not a right person for the due diligence. Due diligence, as much as is a science, is an art. You got to be able to make decisions and make predictions and be comfortable to take that risk, and in your ability to make recommendations and make yes and make some data when all the data is not available and on a fly. So it is a really special kind of a pedigree that you need for due diligence. I would never put the people who are project managers, people who do a long-term projects, etc., on due diligence, because that's not the right pedigree for that. Then when you get into the post-merger, then what is really important is that you need somebody who could execute. You need somebody who could really persistent, detail-oriented. It is a different pedigree again, but this is not. It is a bit, although it's all these are this is program, and program is made of many projects. What is the key is for everybody to know that because the PMI is set in 2 years, and the budget for PMI is set in has to be spent in less than 2 years. This is something that you got to give to someone who understands M&A, understand dependencies. It has a great stakeholder management. It understands financials very well, and to be able to manage, some of these programs that are 20, 30, 40 million, and then that person, that program manager who understands risk and risk mitigation and execution, could have a variety of project managers to just work for him in the PMO to make sure that we execute. But person who's sitting on the top, this is the person who the program manager needs to be extremely versed program manager that both could do a deep dive as well as understands budgets, resource allocations, and forecasting. Forecasting of the costs of integration. How you gonna, let's say somebody gave you a $10 million, you ask for $10 million to do an integration, and somebody gave you that $10 million. The question becomes how you're going to spend it. You're going to spend it in 2 years. That means you have to forecast it. That's a monthly forecast. If you don't spend the money, you cannot just come back and get it again at the end of the 2 years. You got to, as you spend, you get paid. So pay, you pay as you go. So then the question becomes the forecasting of your resources, the forecasting of your burn rate for the integration per month or per quarter. It becomes very, very important. Now, the other part that it becomes important, now that you forecasted how much money you got to spend, now you got to tie that directly to the amount of progress that you made. You spent 200K this month. Did you get what you were supposed to get? Have you hit all your milestones? So it is. So that's why for me is very key for the person who runs this. Is a key person to really be able to really have a broad view of how programs work, how work gets done, what are the interdependencies, and also understand the whole resource allocation and budgeting. So it's a very unique profile, and you really need a senior person to put in the place. What I've seen mostly is people whenever you put a regular project manager, on these integrations, this fails. A lot of people say many integrations fails because of this and that. What a lot of literature doesn't tell you why they fail. And then a lot of why is just because of the people that you choose to do these things, and they just don't have the right skill set. They're not the right fit. They're just the people who just available, or just because they're technology guys, then you want to put them in charge. You never want to put a specialized techie person to run your programs. This is a discipline that it really requires business acumen. It really requires understanding of the technology, understanding of the finance, understandings of the little bit of M&A structuring. So if you don't have that profile, you got to make sure you develop that profile, you acquire that profile in your company, and you keep it as a core competency. A lot of companies go out and buy, the third party, bring the third parties to come and run these things. But if you do quite a few of these things, you need core competency in house, and you need to build that. And then obviously the risk analysis piece that it's that we talked about. The so let me just spend a few things here to make sure that we're. I'm just going to leave you with few things to really think about. Make sure you have a PMI framework. Make sure that is based on digital capabilities. This should be a capability driven framework. What is your capability of the service? Don't talk about IT. Talk about services. Talk about collaboration, productivity. Uh, these are the things that business wants to be able to collaborate. They don't care how many ADs need to be set up, what user needs to do, what is the identity management. They want to collaborate. So they want an email. They want to be able to do IM. These are the type of a thing that you need. These are the communication. Create packages, create services. But this is got to be part of a well-defined framework. What is mandatory? What is it that you want to force the business to take as a prerequisite for them to take anything else, and what is an optional? Then do a risk-based due diligence framework. We talked about that. Start with the deal structure and the deal assumptions. Don't start with an IT. Look at the deal assumptions. Look at the deal structures. See what some of the question are we creating a new legal entity? Are we consolidating the old ones? Is the front office gets integrated, sales channels? Does back office gets integrated? Are you closing sites? Are you co-locating? These are all, you have to start from this. You never starts from, I'm going to give you email, I'm going to give you this. So you start, you define this. And then finally you come, defining integration strategy based on business strategy and assumption. Then you decide you got to have your framework should say what the full integration looks like, what a partial integration looks like, what is the no integration looks like. If we don't do any integration for a company, that means they stand alone. Does it mean that we don't have to do security? For me, is no, absolutely you have to, because we talked about. So you have to define all these based on really sound methodology that works for your company, that is repeatable. And don't let business tell you that you're going to kill value. Don't let them say that if you if you just do too much, then if we integrate, then we're going to kill value. You got to integrate, and you got to integrate correctly. So, and I have another quick poll for you to compare. Compared to 2007, you expect the number of companies acquired for IT know-how in 2018 to increase or decrease. So it is so basically, is the know-how going to increase or decrease? That's the question. I talked about this in great detail. I don't see any to go through this. This is basically, again, same thing as I said about the strategic planning and program setup, program plan and governance, program execution, legal and vendor management, organization and change management, and financial controlling. These are basically the four cornerstones of our post-merger integration framework. And then, as you could see, they're aligned to the deal phase as we discussed. So, concepts to think about: standardize as much as possible. Don't kill acquired company with over processes, but also don't lose the opportunity to integrate core processes. This is very key. You got to make sure you find the right balance through your framework, but make sure your framework already predicts that. So when you're sitting and having a conversation with business, is not their surprise. Put a menu in front of them to say, this is the package one, this is the package two, this is the package three. Which ones do you want? Put in place a very strong change management and communication office. It is one thing that is really, really, really key that I cannot emphasize enough is the change management and people who run that on communication. You could be doing everything right. If you can't manage the change because you have the people, you're dealing with people, if you can't communicate the change, then you failed. So you got to make sure you have a right team of change management and communication, and is absolutely key. As you can see, M&A fails a lot of it because of the change management. Those stat you see that nobody probably looks at it is just 50% of those failures are due to failure of change management to be able to communicate and manage the change. So I just want to hand this over with that. Just hand this over to Katya. I talked a lot. I'm sure you may have some questions, so I just let her take this over. And if there is any question, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Maury. It was a very insightful and clear, erudite, presentation, which clearly comes from a lot of experience in the sector. Going forward, I will be presenting on behalf of Mergerware and stating a little bit about what the tool and platform really does. Mergerware is an enterprise SaaS offering and a new generation M&A platform powered by cutting-edge technology and machine learning capabilities. Maury, will you please go to the next slide? Maury?
Yeah.
Yes, just change the next slide. Thank you. While I will be reiterating on some of the facts and points that Mori mentioned, I'm trying to tell you how Mergerware really helps in those core issues and points which have and been an issue for M&A IT integration, while helping with reputational, financial, and operational lists, which Mori stated were some of the biggest red flags of IT integration, and also with helping in cost, revenue, and time integration synergies. Traditional M&A approaches focus on structure, while modern day focuses on value creation, synergy creation, and a flexible integration plan, given the very nature of modern day M&A, which is dynamic and complicated like it's never been before. Mergerware caters to this very problem of M&A by simplifying the entire deal management and helping the C-suite focus on strategic goals rather than operational aspects of M&A. The platform removes the risks associated with traditional M&A approaches. It is simple to define an integration project and track it to ensure synergy creation and risk aversion. It is a new and improved way of working, as within the platform, you can define and create a playbook to ensure synergy creation. Mergerware comes with itself an inbuilt playbook which takes into account best practices model from across the industry, which can be further customized as per the requirement of as well as the particular sector or industry it is catering to. Within the platform, it helps in the tracking of post-acquisition performance, bringing great amount of transparency and communication in all levels of hierarchy. Mori, can you turn the next slide? Thank you. Some of the key features of Mergerware and unified digital M&A platform comes with great amount of security. It is AAA certified by SSL Labs, which is the best security in the industry. Hosted on AWS, Amazon Web Services, all the security features of AWS apply along with inbuilt security features to ensure that all the data and information stored within the platform can only be accessed by those who have been given special prior permission, which ensures there is absolute no breach of data. An inbuilt playbook, which, like I stated, takes into account the best practices in the industry with audit capabilities. The pre-deal features focus on playbook management, inbuilt virtual data room at each level and tasks reveals the project levels, which ensure information and data can easily be tracked and accounted for. All information and recording of all the buyer-seller communication is stored within the platform. A risk and issue tracker, which highlights any potential risks that can be possibly foreseen within the platform to ensure that such risks are avoided and action taken subsequently before it is too late. And inbuilt analytics and reporting, which helps in guiding the deal towards success. Besides playbook management, project management end to end, and progress indicators to ensure that at every given stage of the deal, all those working on the deal have complete knowledge of where the deal is working towards. If there are any tasks which have been delayed, these are also fixed within the time, ensuring team communication within the platform and an inbuilt analytics and reporting with extensive machine learning capabilities. The top management has access to the dashboard, which provides again the C-suite with a bird's eye view of the deal progress, along with reports which can be churned out in seconds. The financial and synergy tracker helps calculate synergies achieved at each stage, and lifetime reporting is always at the fingertips of the C-suite of management. A one platform solution from end to end for deal management and simplification of deal. The Mergerware platform is built with the intent to ensure success of every deal. Thank you. We will be now taking in questions from the audience. I have a few questions which have already been typed out. The audience can still feel free to type out any questions that they might have. So Mori, one of the questions goes as, what do you think is the future of IT in M&A integration?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. I think what as you could see with digitization, what I see more and more is we are shifting from especially in the manufacturing sector. We're really shifting significantly as we become more digitized. What is really becoming important is the security becomes absolutely paramount. So if I were to say three things that I would see is the security being one, then agility being two, where we need to be able to integrate and realize value much faster as before. And then if in the future, even now, we need to be able to make the companies digital ready, and that means you need to digitize them. You need to make sure that your offering is able to it's if you want to have an IoT sector with all these connected products, you got to be the old paradigm of non-digital doesn't work. So you got to make sure that you are digitizing. You have basically a digital factory where you could and digital processes that you could really make sure that you could enable digitization and selling of digital products. So that these are the things that I could see as definitely a trend.
Okay, thank you very much. Another point is about what are the key issues and problems that you have faced in your experience with IT integration, and what do you think would be the issues that you will concurrently see in the future as we go?
So what I've seen in the past, there was something that I alluded in the presentation as well, is the things that I've seen. If I pointed two things, one is inability of IT leaders to communicate and speak in business terms and M&A terms with the corporate M&A. So that would be a number one. Number two is the assigning just technology folks to these in the M&A realm instead of really grooming people for the diligence, grooming people for a special pedigree of people to do the PMI work. And then what other thing that I've seen is that which is very that which I definitely talked to during the presentation is that change management and communication, and the lack of having a change management leader, change management plan. It really hinders and really kills value, because you can't communicate the value, you can't manage the value, you're going to lose the key talent. Is going to there's a lot of cultural shift that is happening. There is that needs to be managed. So from that point of view, I think these three, what I would see are the challenges that have existed in the past, and I think they're the challenges that you see in the future. And I would add to that information security as definitely the most important challenge in the future when it comes to uh, M&A activities for IT, especially if you work with R&D, especially if you work with intellectual property. Imagine that you buy a company that has a lot of IP and is sitting on a flat network. That network everybody has access to, and the network is not segregated. The crown jewels are not identified. You don't have the uh, uh, right classification of the data, and so data privacy, and I'll add, I'm assuming data privacy as being part of information security. These are uh, data security, information security, and data privacy, plus the other three that I said I was as the most future and problem issues.
Well, thank you so much, Maury. It was a really insightful presentation. And I think the key takeaways for most of the audience is that information security is very critical, and how change management is most often underestimated in M&A integration projects, and how IT is also the core of which has to be handled effectively to ensure the success of the deal. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to have you in our upcoming webinars. Have a great day.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity and to just discuss this, and looking forward to the future collaboration.
Thank you. It has been great having you.